Hello, thank you for joining Toxic to Triumph. My name is Matthew Pfeiffer. I have on a very special guest. I've been looking forward to having him on for some time now. I have on Matt Cama, all the way from Bali, and I've been excited to have you on. And he is I wanted to call you a relationship coach, but we said
Self-relationship coach.
self
Yes.
relationship coach.
Uh-huh.
And the same way that I talk about having a good relationship with yourself, he is someone that dives deep into that as well, probably a little bit deeper than I go. And you can find him on mattcama.com, and he's all over TikTok, all over social media, YouTube, and pretty much any major platform any major social media platform you can find him in. Matt, I'll turn it over to you, and I'll let you introduce yourself and let you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. So really happy to be on here. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt Cama. And just to put it in a simple sentence, because I always struggle to put myself under a label. Like, what do I actually do? Or like, what type of coach are you? I'm like, I don't actually know. So I really liked before this came up with a self-relationship coach. That definitely resonates. But to put it simply, how it is that I help people is I help people to create and attract healthier relationships by changing the relationship with themselves. And that's what I truly believe in. I truly believe that it's an inside out game rather than trying to find a step-by-step process to attract the person that you want. I'm more about let's focus on changing the relationship within ourselves because our relationship within ourselves affects every other relationship in our lives. So, and that's not just with romantic partners, friendships, family members, all of it. So I'm a big believer in that. And the reason why I got into that was just pain,
Right.
lots of pain, lots of trauma within myself. So to put it in a very long story short, because it can drag out very, very long, I'll put it within 2 to 3 minutes. So growing up, in my before I got into high school, I was this happy, bubbly kid. And it all really started to change when I got into my first year of high school because I was bullied as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And at that school, I was called Fat Matt on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody has had anyone say something to you again and again, or maybe just one time, it can really affect your self perception,
Right.
right? And I remember coming home from school and just locking my door, grabbing the fat on my stomach, and just wishing that I could just rip it all off and hating myself and not going to the beach. Or if I went to the beach, I would always go to the water with my shirt on, or I would avoid it completely because I didn't want to be in a situation where people would see my body. And I remember just feeling so much pain to the point that I started to say to myself, okay, I need to change this. I'm sick and tired of looking the way that I look, feeling the way that I feel. So I started to train and eat healthy, slowly started to lose the weight. And I became a personal trainer later on at 17 years old. And the challenge was that even though I lost the weight, I didn't feel like a healthy and fit person
Right.
because when I saw myself in the mirror, I was still seeing the small, chubby little kid,
Right.
right? And that's when I started to realize that how I see is much more important than how I look.
Right.
And what started to occur from all of that was me becoming really, really shy, even though I changed my physical appearance. The wounded inner child, the 12-year-old Matt who started to see himself or saw himself as fat, as ugly, as not good enough, he was still trapped in my body. And because I was this way, I was attracting unhealthy relationships. I didn't know how to be in my own body happy and healthfully. I was overcompensating with this insecurity by hiring dating coaches, taking me out to the club and taking me out onto the streets to get women, but it was all to um, feel the void that I was feeling within.
Right.
And I started to, yeah, just become you could say a very unhealthy man,
A fuck boy.
unhealthy. Yeah, very, very,
Mhm.
very much so.
Uh-huh. We said
And
just for the audience, we said that in the beginning. So I'm trying to give Matt permission to cuss on here, so we're good.
yes, well, I was saying to Matt that I definitely fell under the category of being a fuck boy for sure. That was
Mhm.
me, so much unhealthy behavior. And yeah, and then I just had to go throughout my own healing journey and realize that this isn't who I wanted to be anymore. And that's where a lot of my content comes from. It's like, oh, that was what I used to do, and
Right.
I've changed my approach and changed who I am. Let me create some content that helps other people who are like that, or on the receiving end of that, understand why it is that this happens.
What would you say was the turning point? What was the pivotal? Was it a gradual progression, or
Mhm.
was there something pivotal that happened that you said, damn, I got to make some changes?
Yeah, it was multiple. It wasn't one specific moment. It was multiple moments where I was just getting feedback from women that I was dating, and just like not realizing it at the time. That's what the crazy thing was. I wasn't even aware that I was doing what it was that I was doing, and just multiple women just saying this isn't okay. Like it's not okay for you to speak to two people at once or three people at once. Like you're speaking to my friend while you're speaking to me, and I'm like, oh, like in my mind, I didn't see it as anything wrong, but that's what it was. That's who it was that I was being at the time, and it was just multiple things like that that I was just getting feedback, and I was like, okay, this isn't who it is that I want to be. Like this
Right.
isn't okay, you know.
And
So multiple moments.
would you say that, because speaking from experience, I didn't have a lot of people that were great guidance, or the people that, even if they meant well, they
Mm,
didn't know how to describe it. Because what I tell people is that when you grow up in a healthy environment, you may know what's healthy, you may know not, you may know the things and unhealthy behaviors, you can't describe it. People who are typically coaches like yourself and I, we struggled big time, right? And we
yes.
pulled ourselves out, and now we can describe it to other people. But people who don't get it, who haven't been through it, they don't know really how to describe it. They just know exactly how you describe the women, that they just say, this is healthy, this isn't healthy, and that's it. What was that journey like for you?
During childhood.
Childhood or adulthood, whichever would.
Yeah. Well, specifically during childhood, it's a big part of where our template on what love and relationships are when we see our parents or whoever it was that was our caregiver growing up. And for me, my template on what love is or what relationships were constantly fighting. My mom and dad constantly getting together and then breaking up. I have very little memories of them even together.
Mhm.
And just that in itself, not having a template on what, oh, this is what love is. This is what relationships are all about. This is how it's meant to be. Because I didn't have that. I didn't have any guidance on all of that. And so that was a challenge in itself. And, uh, I was in just up until about 3 or 4 years ago, it was like I was in primary school or kindergarten of relationships, like learning, okay, this is how we communicate. This is open communication. This is what love is. This is how I can have empathy. This is okay. I don't need a problem fix and fix every single problem that I have. Just listen empathetically. Like this was my journey because I didn't have that growing up. But then later on, I definitely started to surround myself with awesome friends, uh, and hire coaches as well. That was helping me to change the relationship within myself. That really helped me attract healthy relationships.
What's the hardest part about making that change? I think both you and I, we talk about that self-love is a journey, not a destination. That's something
Yeah.
I've heard from you. I say it quite often. I think any coach or therapist who talks about this deeply talk about this and describe it as that there is no journey. This isn't, I quite often say this isn't like a broken arm where it takes 6 to 8 weeks to heal.
Yes.
You've got to look at this as like, this is now a new lifestyle change, that
Mm,
this is a new overhaul, right? What would you, either from your experience or from the things that you tell people that you're working with, is most commonly the difficult part of this new journey that they go on?
that's a really good question. I feel like the most challenging part of it is being open and willing to look at the stuff that you don't want to look at, to be able to own those parts of ourselves that maybe the ego just wants to say, no, you're right. This is okay. Like looking at those behaviors, like, holy shit, I have been doing this.
Mhm.
This isn't okay. Like the moving from a space of unawareness to awareness, the
Yeah.
middle ground of that, that's the most challenging part because it's uncomfortable. The ego has to die because the part of us that wants to be right, the part of us that wants to keep hold all of these behaviors that we've been holding on to because it's what we've known for so
Right.
long. Like that's definitely the most difficult part. And it's not a one-time thing. It's a constant looking at what's alive for me right now, or getting objective feedback, journaling, going to therapy, like facing those aspects of ourselves that we don't want to look at. That's one of the most courageous things that anybody can ever do. It's something that a lot of people will never do.
Go a little bit more into the ego? What do you mean by the ego? How would someone know that their ego has really like taken over, or they're having ego issues?
Mhm.
Is it a feeling? Is it, do you typically get feedback from other people? Like, how would someone know that it's an ego driven issue?
Yes. So if you the easiest way is any part of you, like everybody has this little voice, all of us. And some of you might be saying, what little voice? That's the little voice that I'm speaking about. And you could call it ego. I know we the internalized parent, that's another one as well,
Mhm.
right? But to be more specific, uh the one thing that we want to look at is any part of us that wants to be right. There's multiple aspects to the ego, but specifically in relationships, the most damaging thing, or the most unhealthy thing, or the most harmful thing, I should say, is the part of us that just wants to be right
Mhm.
rather than wanting to create a healthy connection or wanting to be in love. Like that's the part of us that we want to become aware of. That little voice that is saying, no, like, I know that the other person has a good point, but defend yourself. Defend yourself at all costs. You
Mhm.
need to be right in this situation. Do not apologize. Don't own up to what behavior you've been doing. Be right. Hold your ground. Like that part is a part of us that um, gets to fall away for us to attract healthy relationships.
Well, now I can imagine some of my audience, the ones who are still struggling in a narcissistic relationship, right? People who are
Mm,
being abused, struggling with codependency, hearing this, right?
yes.
And thinking to themselves that maybe this is an ego issue for me. How do you find that balance between defending yourself and knowing that you actually need to defend yourself, that someone is actually doing something towards you, and versus that this is like an ego issue? Where does that balance lie?
Yeah, that's where I feel like we get outside help. There's a really good quote. I think it's like, it's very hard to see the label from inside the bottle, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And this is where you can reach out to outside support, because when you're in it, it can be really challenging to go like, what is this, But from people outside of us, when you can get that objective feedback, that objective lens, someone can look in and say, hey, this isn't okay.
Right.
This isn't healthy right now.
Mhm.
I've definitely been in situations like that where it was really challenging for me to see, like, oh wait, I can't see it for what it is because I'm inside the quote unquote bottle. So I feel like the easiest way to navigate around that is speak to a friend, speak to a therapist, go to a coach, find someone that can give you that objective feedback.
And with that being said, when how do you find that balance between speaking up for yourself, right, and just knowing when you should like just walk away?
That's a really good point. Knowing when to speak up for yourself. So what would be, can you give me an example, like a little bit more context? Like what would
Um,
be an example?
let's say that, so in the dating scene, right? Everyone gets to, actually, let me ask in a different way.
Mhm.
How can you tell between healthy level of toxicity in a relationship, in a dating
Mhm.
relationship, new, fresh, versus this is another issue? This is something different.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, it's really challenging because people normally have their mask up, right? This is
Right.
who I am. I am
Mhm.
awesome. Smiles all around. Like I'm going to love bomb you. And then you later find out like this was all a manipulation game. So some people, it can be really challenging at the start. So but if you have multiple reference experiences of that happening, it's going to be easy for you to like catch that and be like, I know what this is. I know what's happening right now, you know? And this is where it comes back to self-awareness and checking with the body. I'm a big believer in intuition, and it can be
Mhm.
challenging sometimes when you've had so many traumatic experiences of people who have gone through narcissistic relationships or people who have been gaslit. It's challenging to listen to what it is that's showing up in the body, right? To be able to know, okay, do I speak up and do I fight for this, or do I just walk away? Um, so yeah, it totally depends, and it's totally depends on the situation. And again, this is where outside support definitely might be most helpful. And the big thing is, I'll say this: if right now someone is in a relationship and they're at a point in the relationship and this has consistently been happening, this is the key thing. If it's consistently been happening, not a one-time thing, because we in relationships there's phases, just like the seasons of life, right? Winter, summer, autumn, spring. There's going to be seasons. However, if this is consistently happening where you are fighting to have your basic emotional needs met, I believe that this person isn't your person. It isn't your soulmate. It isn't your one. It isn't your twin, whatever it is that you want to call it. Like if you're fighting to have your basic emotional needs met, and this is like you're in winter
Right.
all year round, then this is when you get to walk away rather than speak up and use your voice to try to fight for this, because there's someone out there who will, I love to share the whole breadcrumb analogy. If we're fighting for the breadcrumbs and and someone is just giving us the breadcrumbs, we get to say, hey, no, I am way more than this. And I'm going to walk away because there's someone out there who is willing to give me the entire bakery.
Right.
And I'm a no to settling for breadcrumbs anymore. Like I'm a fuck no to that. I'm a full body no to that.
What are your thoughts on soulmates?
Yeah. I believe we have multiple soulmates. I don't believe we have a one. I believe that there's multiple people out there, an all-you-can-eat buffet of people out there
Right.
who are highly compatible for who it is that I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, though, that I get to choose one awesome individual that I want to build with, you know. However, I don't fall into the belief that this is my person, and if this person goes away, then my whole life now is shit.
Right.
No, I believe there's an all-you-can-eat buffet of amazing humans out there who are highly compatible for me. I used to believe that there was a one, and it definitely got me into a very scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel like that frame of mind keeps me in an abundant mindset.
Yeah. And when you talk about you talk about becoming like that person, becoming a healthier person to draw those people to you quite often.
Mm.
Can you go a little bit more into that, like in terms of like I hear all the time, how do you know when you're healed? How do you know when you're ready to date after something that's bad, after you've dealt with the ego issues, after you've talked to the dating coach, after you've done all these things? When do you know that you're ready to meet someone and ready to enter into that scene again?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it's a very common question that I get from all of my clients. So the way that I break it down, there's healed and then there's healing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So to heal is to experience the opposite. So coming back to a broken bone, how do we know when we've healed?
Yeah.
Well, when the bone is no longer broken. You go to get the x-ray, it's like, okay, the bone is fully put together now, it's all good. So let me give you some examples of this. Let's say that you've gone through a breakup and you have so much hate towards your partner because of what it is they did, or maybe it's unhappiness. And now you know you've healed if you can look at this person and you feel nothing but, whether it be love and gratitude for your time together, or maybe you're not at that point yet. Maybe it's just acceptance, like, oh, this happened, it's all good. Maybe there's no emotional charge anymore. So that's how you know you've healed. Or maybe if you got cheated on, if you feel total heartbreak and despair, you know you've healed from that when there isn't that anymore. It's just like acceptance, and maybe there's love and gratitude because it led you to something greater on in the future, right? So that's when you know you've healed, to experience the opposite of whatever it is that you're currently experiencing or have experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Healing is a journey, right? You may notice maybe there's not as much emotional charge anymore when you look at your partner, your ex-partner, right? So you're on your journey, but you're noticing that 2 weeks ago, you hated this person. Now it's like, oh, you can look at their Instagram or you can see their face and you don't want to cry, or you don't rage up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So healed to experience the opposite. Healing are those little milestones when you're starting to notice that little progress. Kind of like if you broke your bone, maybe before you couldn't pick up a cup, now you can pick up a cup. and it's not fully healed yet, but you're noticing this little progress.
Right.
So that's the way that I like to describe it.
And then when we talk about healing, part of this journey, I think where you and I kind of start to intersect is attachment, right? When we
Mm,
start talking about attachment issues, insecure attachments, and I know you've been talking about that a lot recently on social media. Um, uh, how does attachment styles, how do they play into dating? I mean, I tell people all the time that if you don't know your attachment style, and if you can't recognize attachment styles in other people, you may not be ready, right?
mhm.
That's something that is important for you to recognize that these styles exist, and knowing that no and going back to something you were talking about with ego, recognizing when your insecure attachment style is starting to show through, right? That I
Mm.
have my default might be an avoidant attachment style, and knowing when that thing is starting to show through and recognizing it and pulling it back, and same with an anxious attachment style, that sort of thing. What are your thoughts on that? Where I guess kind of go into your opinion on attachment styles and insecure and secure attachment styles, and that sort of thing.
Yes. Love this question. So the really good book, have you read it? Have you read Attached?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
great book.
one,
Is so for those of you listening, I highly recommend that book.
yes, 100%.
Hmm.
One big thing that I feel like isn't spoken enough about though in that book and other content that I see as well is um, that this is the way you are. If you're anxious or if you're avoidant, then this is who you are. Like one thing that I believe in is that we can change our attachment style,
Hmm.
100%. So one of the biggest things that we can do is whatever it is that you specifically need from another person. Like let's say that you are anxious and insecure attachment style, and you're really looking for someone who is secure. What I believe is that whatever it is that you are seeking from another person, safety, which is usually the biggest thing,
Hmm.
certainty, safety, that's a thing that we get to give to ourselves, right? Specifically, if we are attracting people who are constantly abandoning us, this is a huge conversation that, again, the relationship within ourselves, the relationship with ourselves affects every other relationship in our life. I've have and had multiple clients who keep saying that people keep abandoning me all the time, or they continuously ghost me, and they just keep showing up again and again and again. And my belief is that we will continue to attract or be attracted to the same people with the same patterns until we heal the patterns within ourselves that is attracting or keeping us attracted to those people in the first place. So let's say that someone is continuously abandoning us. We get to look at where in my life am I abandoning myself? Where in my life, like what I'm seeking is someone who is going to be like, no matter what it is that you are feeling, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You can be in your mess, you can share everything, and I'm not going to run. I'm staying here. Do we have that with ourselves? Can we feel an emotion that comes up, or do we run, or do we eat it away? Do we Netflix it away? Do we scroll it away? Like, where in our life are we abandoning ourselves when we say, I can't hold this, I can't be with this? The sadness, the guilt, the shame, the anger, the rage, all this feeling, I'm not going to be here for myself when I'm feeling that. So I'm going to avoid, or I'm going to get out of my body so I can stop myself from feeling it. What happens when we allow ourselves to say, I'm not going anywhere? When we're speaking to the 7-year-old us, the 13-year-old us, you can be in your mess. You can feel the way that you're feeling, and I'm not leaving. I'm here. I'm staying with you. I love you. When we speak to our inner child like that, we're going to start to feel very secure within ourselves. And because of that, the relationships that we attract or the people that we're attracted to are going to be totally different. So that's a
That's a
long
great. That was a
answer.
no. That was a great breakdown. So
Yeah.
we certainly appreciate that. And that was something very needed for people who are going through this, because attachment styles, it gets really, because the same way that they can change for the better, right?
Mm.
When you go through some shit, like it can change for the worse as well.
Yes.
I speaking from experience. That was, I struggled mightily with an avoidant attachment style for, for a large period of time, right?
Same.
And it happens, and, which leads to, and which is the reason why I tell people that you have to recognize other people's attachment styles too, or exactly what you just said. You're going to start to run into these, and you can start to be proactive and start to avoid a lot of these, these really emotional heartbreaks long before any type of attachment, any type of enmeshment actually happens.
Yes.
Just by kind of knowing this. And so, talk to us a little bit more about shadow work. What exactly is shadow work? You talk about that a lot. I've seen some of your videos where I've seen like one where you had black eyes and
Mm.
the
Yes.
the black pupils, or what.
Uh-huh.
But you've done some pretty creative skits with shadow work. What exactly is that?
Yeah, so that was a long time ago. I love that you remember that. So the most misconception, by the way, with shadow work is that it is evil, as a bad thing, but because it's like the term in itself can be perceived that way. But to make it as simple as possible, shadow work is any time that you're bringing awareness to what it is that you're unaware of. That's what shadow work is.
Mhm.
So shadow work isn't going into the evil things. You're doing shadow work anytime that you're journaling, because you're
Right.
bringing awareness to those parts of yourself that's in the subconscious or living dormant within the body. But to make it, this is a term that was coined by Carl Jung, and it's any part of our subconscious or any aspect of ourselves, any thought, feeling, or behavior that we have deemed as bad, unacceptable, not okay, and we've suppressed that side of ourselves within our body or within our subconscious mind. So things like emotions, anything like those thoughts that you feel like, this isn't okay for me to think. I shouldn't be attracted to other people while I'm in a relationship. This is a bad. But where did this come from? Who says
Right.
it's bad for you to be thinking this way? I shouldn't be feeling this anger. I shouldn't be feeling this sadness. I shouldn't be feeling this happiness even. That can also happen. This is
Right.
bad, right? Or the behaviors, those parts of you that you don't want to show the world. For me, that was porn addiction for a very long time. I
Hmm.
had so much guilt and shame about that. So I would hide it and I wouldn't tell anybody about the addictions that I was struggling with at the time. So, but it can also be the gifts. This is a huge one that I work with whenever I'm working with coaches. The the part of them that has so much knowledge and they have so much talent, or they have so much that they want to share with the world, but they suppress and deny those aspects of themselves because at 7 years old or 14 years old, they were constantly told to shut up,
Right.
stop speaking,
Right.
stop raising your voice. So they try to make a TikTok video, they try to make a podcast, and they can't do it because there's an aspect of themselves that has been denied for so damn long.
Right.
So shadow work, bringing light to the darkness within ourselves, but
Imposter
darkness
syndrome
isn't
is what
bad.
you just described.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
I want to share a story because this might solidify uh, what shadow work is.
Yeah.
There was a time about 3 years ago, and I was working as a support coach at one of my coaches' seminars, and it was day one of the seminar. There was like 100 people coming into the room, and the music was blasting, and everybody was walking in so happy. And I was in the back just looking at everybody walk in, feeling so happy. And there was one person that I heard out of all of the 100 people that were walking in.
Hmm.
And I heard her before I saw her. She was so loud. She was jumping up and down. She formed a dance circle within the very first day. And she was like, she was like the light of the whole entire room. She
Right.
just always putting a hand up, answering. Like she had no problem using her voice and
Right.
taking up space. Zero problem with that. She was
Hmm.
owning her power. And she was triggering me so damn much.
Hmm.
Right.
Right.
And I remember going home that night, going to my hotel that night actually, and I was just thinking, I was like, why is this person bothering me so much? Like there's something about this person that I just don't know what it is, but they're bothering me so damn much. They're triggering the fuck out of me, and I don't
Right.
know what it is. And it clicked, and then I got it. And then once I became aware of it, shadow work, bringing awareness to those parts of us that we're unaware of, I said to myself, I'm going to go and thank her tomorrow.
Hmm.
I'm gonna actually just say what it is that I became aware of.
Yeah.
So I walked in and she was already in the room. She was filling up a water bottle. And I remember walking over to her and I said, "Hey, I know this is super random, but I just want to say thank you because yesterday you were triggering the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like taken back. She's just super confused. And I said,
Right.
but it's a good thing. And I just want to say thank you because you owning your power, being so open, so being so willing to take up space and use your voice was highlighting the aspects of me that felt uncomfortable with speaking up,
Right.
with taking up space, because I was called Mute Cama instead of Matt Cama as a kid. I
Mm-hmm.
was constantly told to shut up, and you are highlighting you're just so okay with it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
triggering the parts of me that I'm not okay with within myself. So I just want to say thank you for being a permission slip to give me the permission to be able to take up more space and use my voice. And that was such a pivoting moment for me. And the reason why I will share this story is because anytime that someone triggers you, usually they're highlighting the aspects of ourselves that we are not okay with, that hasn't been healed, the aspects of us that we have suppressed. Sometimes they are just an asshole,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a 5% of the time. 95% of the time,
Right.
it's a part of ourselves that we are not okay with yet.
I find that interesting, especially with both of us being doing what we do on social media, right? Because I'm sure you felt the same way that I do as I'm about to describe. The minute that camera you hit record on that camera, or at least people forget sometimes that we all had a very first video, right?
Yes.
And we all did, we hit record on the podcast for the very first time, and the fear that you may have had, or the fear that I may have had, and it comes from the things that were told about us, right? Like you, I wasn't called Mute Matt, but I was called a lot of other things. I was constantly talked about the way that I speak, the way that I talk. Told I was going to fail. Certain, a lot of different things, right? And it takes a lot of work to overcome those fears to get to a certain point of really what people are actually holding you back. Those thoughts and the things that people said to you are actually holding you back potentially from your actual destiny. Had I
Mm.
listened to those people, I would literally never be where I'm at today. Right? What is it like to what's that process like when you're talking to coaches to overcome that fear, right? It's one thing to overcome that fear and to work on the shadow work, to learn how to date and to have a good relationship, but having a good relationship with yourself to actually walk into your destiny, to become a coach, to become a therapist, or whatever it is. I mean, maybe it's a CEO, or who the hell knows? Maybe it's just I shouldn't say just, but to become a lawyer, or whatever you feel like your destiny actually is, right?
Mm.
What are some things that you would tell someone in that aspect, where maybe it's signing up for school, maybe it is whatever that objective is that's holding them back.
That's a really good question. I love that. And I love your little language pick of just. That's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna learn from that as well. That's really awesome. So for me, it's becoming aware of the internalized parent. I know that you speak about this as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
The internalized
absolutely.
parent. And the reason why I speak about it, so for those who don't know, all of us have, whether it be a parent or your primary caregiver growing up, we have this voice within us. And the reason why I'm speaking about this is because sometimes our goals or our career path isn't actually our career path. It's what mom wanted us to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's what dad wanted us to do. It's what whoever it was that was your primary caregiver wanted you to do. Or maybe that can even go into the relationships. Maybe you're in a relationship or you're choosing partners that is going to make your primary caregiver happy or your caregivers happy, whoever it
Mm-hmm.
was, whoever it was,
Or
whoever
even
that
society,
was.
for that
Or
matter.
society,
Mm-hmm.
exactly, right? So it's looking at, are these my goals? Is this my career path? My meaning what my heart wants me to do? Or is this career path chosen out of wanting to make society happy because it's successful to be this way and earn this type of money? Because success, my belief of what success is, it's not the money, it's not the followers, it's not whatever it might be, it's how it is that I'm feeling.
Right.
Can I go to bed that night and feel happy and feel aligned? Same thing with a partner,
Right.
right? Are we choosing a partner out of what society is like looks as like a good partner, or trying to just trying to make the relationship look good, but inside it doesn't feel good.
Right.
So does that answer the question?
Yeah, yeah. Keeping kind of keep. I don't even want to say keeping up with the Joneses, but trying to keep other people satisfied, right? Trying to keep other
Yes.
people off her, trying to live up to other people's expectations, not even realizing that choosing other people's expectations are actually basically sabotaging yours, right? I
Yes.
tell people the opposite of self love is self sabotage. When you're not
Mm,
loving yourself, you're actually sabotaging something that you truly want. Not setting a boundary, not speaking up for yourself is actually choosing self sabotage.
I
Um,
love that.
something I talk about quite often with people that I work with is congruency. Right, we all have this internal nature to that the world around us needs to fit and needs to feel the way that we feel internally about ourselves. Well, if we feel bad about ourselves, if we're choosing something that other people, that because people have spoken negatively to us for a long period of time, we will sabotage the world around us to meet our standards where we're at internally. Well, there's also
Hmm.
incongruency where if we build ourselves back up the way that you talk about, the way that you described earlier, we will begin to build up the world around us, and then we can live up to that expectation to keep ourselves happy, to keep ourselves to understand that this journey is mine, it belongs to me, this is my life. One of my favorite quotes, I don't even really care for this guy as a player, but Brett Favre, he kind of went into this a bit
Hmm.
when I don't know if you follow American football at all.
No.
So Brett Favre, one of the great quarterbacks. He was one of those type of players that was flirting with retirement, played past his prime, that sort of thing. And people said, you're going to ruin you're going to ruin your legacy if you keep playing. If you keep coming out of retirement, you're going to ruin your legacy. And he's like, it's mine. It
Mm,
belongs to me. Like it's my legacy. I do whatever the hell I want with it. Right. And,
yes.
and that's a story that I like to share with people that like, this is your life. Do whatever the hell you want with it. It doesn't
Yes.
matter if you have the ability to become the greatest lawyer or the greatest doctor or neurosurgeon ever, and that's what your parents want you to be.
Mm,
If you want to become a kindergarten teacher, then go do that, right? Because
yes.
that's it's your life to live. If you want to be the greatest TikToker or the greatest Instagrammer ever, then go do that because it's your life to live.
Hmm. Yeah, man. The expectations
Yeah.
that um, that we buy into can be very, very challenging. And this comes back to what shadow work is bringing light to those aspects of ourselves that we are unaware of. So
Right.
one of the most important things we can ask ourselves is, what is it that I'm passionate about? And I'll actually go into how in relationships with this as well. Like, but in terms of career path, what is it I'm passionate about?
Right.
What is it that makes time disappear for me? Well, I don't know yet. Okay, well that is telling me that we get to go out there and try so many things,
Right.
right? Try multiple things until we get those reference experiences. Like, okay, this is what I love, this is what I don't love.
Right.
So it's either that. And in terms of relationships, this is also very important to be able to write down, what is it that I actually want in a partner? You can do this, by the way, even if you're in a relationship. Like, if okay, if you're in a relationship, if I was single right now, what is it that I want in a partner? What is it that I highly desire in a partner? And then also, what is it that I don't desire in a partner?
Right.
And it's coming from three different places as well. You're going to be writing from the consciousness level, the head, like values and what are their belief systems, what are their passions, but then the heart, what does a heart actually want and what does a heart actually don't want in a relationship as well.
Right.
Maybe for you, it's really important to be able to have deep, meaningful conversations, or maybe you want a very open-hearted human that you're in a relationship with,
Right.
or maybe you want someone who is in touch with their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's head, what is it that you desire head level? What is it that you don't desire from a head level? What is it that you desire and not desire from the heart level, but then also our primal part of ourselves as well, right? The
Absolutely.
primal aspect of ourselves. What does that want? Do you want someone that you just feel ravished by? Do you want someone that you feel so attracted to you that you just can't even help you, like you can't not have your hands on them because they're just so damn attractive to
Right.
you? Like it's being able to go through those three different centers of our body and ask ourselves, what do we actually want? But you can also do that in a career path as well. It's the
Right.
same thing.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, thank you very much for joining Toxic to Triumph. We are running out of time, but we appreciate your time so much and all the knowledge that you dropped. Give us one little tidbit on whether it's dating, whether it is life in general, whether it is a quote, something that just kind of your closing thoughts on anything that way of life, way of living. It can be pertaining in anything, and just kind of your closing thoughts.
Mm. The thing that I ingrain into all of my clients, and I've said it multiple times here, which is the relationship with ourselves affects every other relationship in our lives. So that's what I'll end with.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Matt Cama. You can find him on mattcama.com. You can also find him at Matt Cama on Instagram,
Mhm.
TikTok, YouTube, pretty much all social media platforms. He runs groups. He primarily groups, right? You don't do any
Primarily
one-on-ones,
groups.
don't do any one-on-ones or anything like that. But he's definitely someone that you definitely want to check out on all social media platforms. Matt, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.